Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us at our AMA Founders Edition. We're speaking to three founders today on how they have been chartering the markets. So with us, we have Philip Thomas, who is the co-founder of Bonza, Tiger Fang, the co-founder of Kargo, and Brian Marshal, the founder of SIRCLO. So Tiger is actually the co-founder and CEO of Kargo Technologies, which has described itself as the Uber for logistics. The startup raised $31 million last year, and Fang was also previously the general manager of Uber Indonesia and China, as well as the managing director at Lazada, and is an active angel investor himself. Philip is the co-founder and chief product and data officer of Bonza, which is a big data analytics platform that most recently raised $2 million in May. And before founding Bonza, he was actually a data scientist, and he has worked at places like Traveloka and Grab. And then last but not least, we have Brian, who is from e-commerce enabler SIRCLO. So the company just raised $36 million last month, and it actually helps brands and SMEs sell online through a variety of solutions. And before starting SIRCLO in 2013, Brian worked at PwC, and he has been billed as one of McKinsey's young leaders for Indonesia. So thanks for joining us, guys. And for the audience, if you have any questions, just do drop the Q&A box. And so to just start off, would you guys like to give more details about what your company does, why you started your company, and where you guys are at today? Maybe Tiger, you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Great to be here. Yeah. Kargo, as Rachel just described, we like to think of ourselves as Uber for big trucks, and instead of facing consumers, we face businesses, so B2B. We started really going after FMCG and trying to really digitize and then optimize all of the trucks that are on the roads, serving your biggest FMCG principles, bringing shampoos, water bottles, Coca-Cola cans, from the manufacturing capacity and factories to regional distribution. That was us back in 2019. Over the last 3 years, we've really expanded and evolved. We now cover really all of Sumatra, Java, Bali, some parts of Eastern Indonesia, and we serve businesses big and small, but really still focusing on how do we optimize and digitize all of the trucks that are on the road. There's 7 million trucks in Indonesia, one of the lowest in terms of operational efficiencies, and so we really try to bring this marketplace dynamics to a supply and sort of demand balance through our range of products. So yeah, it's great to be here today.
Great, thanks, Tiger. Philip, would you like to go next?
So Bonza is actually a big data analytics company. What we realized is that when we first started, business owners and companies generating a lot of data, but we received a lot of questions about, I have been generating this data, but how do I use them? How can I create value from this data? And we see that there is a potential gap in the market for this, and we Bonza want to bridge that gap. So we have two products currently. One is the no-code, low-code platform for our for machine learning applications. The second one is basically we create an AI that is ready to use for fraud detection purposes. Our clients mostly are enterprises and businesses that are generating a lot of data, again, because we want to help them to be able to create value from that data. So currently, we are focusing a lot on enabling data that works for them, more than just a report. We don't want the models to just live in PowerPoint presentations. We want them to live in productions, which means their operational decisions is becoming more effective because of our products. That's where we are currently.
Cool, thanks, Philip. And Brian, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So thanks for having me. And I'm building a company named SIRCLO. I founded the company 8 years ago. And since the beginning all the way until today, our mission has always been the same, to actually help everyone to sell online. So what we mean by that is that we help individual business owners, we help SMEs, we help multinational companies to optimize how they can sell their products through many channels. So we help them in setting up their brand.coms, be it in website or mobile app. We help them operate their official stores in marketplaces. We venture out to new retails as well as social commerce lately, and we try to kind of integrate it with their offline capabilities as well if they already have ones previously. So yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing, and really looking forward for the the session.
Sure, cool, thanks. So I was telling Chris earlier, I can never do what you guys do, which is start a business. So I know I'm just curious. You guys took the risk. What were some of the biggest issues you actually faced trying to start your business and trying to scale it, and in particular during the pandemic? Maybe Philip, would you like to go first?
Right. Thanks, Rachel. So Bonza started back in 2020, right? This is early when the pandemic hits. We never planned to be a remote team, but we have to be one because during the pandemic, and that was our biggest challenge. But I think it's also a blessing to some extent because right now we are a remote first company, but it's also a challenge where in Indonesia, a remote first company is not quite common. So that means we have to instill trust into the companies and have to make sure that everyone is have an autonomous in their working style every day. So our biggest challenge definitely is on the talent side, hiring, onboarding, especially if we are building products that enables businesses to use their data. That means we need a lot of technological talents. So yeah, definitely on the talent side. So how do we get around that? For talents, there are two sides of the equation here. One, you can basically acquire talents that is senior. It can be from Indonesia, it can be from any other markets. I mean, that's the benefits of the remote first companies. But the second one, we also would like to contribute to develop talents in Indonesia, so that we also hire a lot of juniors, and we have a set of training program internally that we develop to help them get to the level that they need to become autonomous, basically. So we are nowhere near perfect. We are still a journey in the making. So definitely, it's still a challenge for us, but we are keep fighting every day for it.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, actually, I was just about to talk about around the same topic as about people. I think all along, I think even though we might call ourselves a tech startup, but I think really at the end of the day, business is all about people. I think starting from how I get partners and then my early employees all the way until 1,000 other people that we have currently in the group. So I think that has been the challenge. Now, especially during the pandemic, I think apart from the fact that we have to kind of adopt the work from home kind of culture, but for SIRCLO, we actually unfortunately have a couple of roles that have to still work from the premise, right? Because, for example, we are actually managing a couple of fulfillment centers, right? Even though we are working with partners as well, but still a couple of our people have to actually be present there to oversee the operations, right? Now, we cannot stop. We have to continue. However, then how we can actually try to mitigate the situation and try to suppress the spread of the virus, right? And so far, I think we are blessed that we didn't actually encounter any cluster so far, and yeah, really looking forward so that we can get out of this pandemic situation as soon as possible.
How about you, Tiger?
Yeah.
I mean, face.
Yeah, I think just to echo a lot of the points that Philip and Brian has already mentioned, which is, in this pandemic where, as tech startups, I think we're lucky, and I'm certainly very grateful that our business is not only sort of still around, but it's thriving. Logistics is thriving in this environment, and we've been working remotely for a large part of last year, and we are also a very deeply operational company. We have to talk to the drivers, we have to invoice, we have to go to the warehouses. There's a lot of really operational pieces of business that has never been able to take off. And the truck drivers themselves, obviously, as we now have onboarded almost 50,000 sort of trucks active on our platform, they could never take off during this time, right? They don't have the luxury of being able to work from home in front of a computer. And so I think it's sort of how do we empathize with our customers and sort of the folks that make up our platform, while making sure that, look, it is a different world. As Philip said, like, we have hired many different people from all over the world during this time. People have gone back to their home countries and worked, as PMs, as data scientists, as engineers. How do we make sure that, this sort of two, like, almost different parts of the world come together? And so, I've been really spending a lot of time thinking about how Kargo can get back to work in a hybrid mode, and really kind of do something, that kind of works for us, right? And I think that's been really tough because, in the second wave, the pandemic has really hit, not just Kargo, but the whole country, very, very hard. And there's been a lot of loved ones from our company who lost loved ones, employees, and so, how do you sort of balance that with, how do we come back to work safely? I'm in the office now. We have A and B teams. We have, testing facilities, or we have homemade, tests, for our employees. And so just finding that balance, I think, has been really tough, because I really think that there's nothing that really beats an in-person sort of, jam session on the whiteboard, drawing things out that, you're just not going to get from 10 people, on Zoom or Teams, trying to get to a solution. And so I'm a big supporter of that, and I hope that, we can sort of come back safely in a way that that everybody can benefit and look forward to coming to see people that they haven't seen like a year and a half.
Yeah, I think you guys brought up really pertinent points. I think on one hand, there's the physical aspect of the pandemic that is already causing a lot of issues, and then the other thing, which I think good and bad has been shot up during the pandemic, is discussions about mental health. You need, how big is an aspect of mental health in your business today, and how do you bring it up during the pandemic? How do you try to remove the stigma? If you guys have anyone can take this?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say yes. I mean, that's really true. I think I was just I think that actually reminded me of what I should say earlier. That I think when we talk about the pandemic, not only about the virus itself, but I think the fact that people now have to work from home, and a lot of them are actually at home alone as well, and kind of loneliness creeping in, and then they don't really have support system that they can talk to in person. I think that's really has been a challenge. Now I think that's why it's becoming more and more important, I think, throughout the pandemic, that we have to kind of engineer that support system within the company, so that we kind of, for example, make some activities just to make sure that each other kind of feel they are not lonely, and they are actually have each other back. They can actually talk about their even personal problems as well, if they need someone to talk to, beyond that, beyond just work. And I think that is really important, because within our business, once we are actually being able to, at least make ourselves strong, then can only we help others to grow as well, right? Because imagine, in our position here, we are enabling businesses, right? We talk with business owners, we talk with businesses that also get hit by the pandemic, right? So they're coming to us to kind of ask, hey Brian, what should we do? My shops, my offline shops are closed down in malls, right? Now, I even think to kind of lay off some of my team members. How can e-commerce help? How can your team help? What's your strategy? I mean, so now, starting from ourselves, I mean, only after we take care of ourselves, then we can only take care of others, right? That's, I think, kind of the mindset and philosophy that we have throughout the pandemic.
Okay. I mean, for the other two, did you guys face struggles with maybe your own mental health, or trying to maybe like comfort your employees while having to handle other aspects of the business as well?
Well, at least from our side, Bonza, right? Mental health has been a very big issue for us, especially we are a small team. I mean, meaning that we don't have a lot of people. If there's one people that needs to take a break, that will have some effect to our plans, right? But that's okay. I mean, that's how you run business in pandemic. So you need to manage expectation and you need to be realistic about things. And our biggest asset is employees. Our biggest challenge is employees. Our biggest basically revenue maker is basically employees, right? So we gotta take care of them. So our first and foremost rule in the company is we are taking care of our employees. If you want to take a break, if there's a need for you to take care of your own mental health, get yourself back together, it's your rights. You don't have to even ask for it, actually. It's so we have a set of core values in the companies, and definitely taking care of each other is one of the core value that is we proud of in the company.
Yeah, same. I think the concept of putting your oxygen mask on before you help others resonates with me. We have a great people ops team that tries to do some of these more virtual stuff, like virtual like Zumba and yoga, and that tries to at least have some type of interaction between folks who are remote. But I think it comes back to I kind of want, and Kargo is pushing forward with a hybrid model, and I think as people are coming back to the office, just being able to see each other and talk to each other and be able to share just like how was your day, like as a conversation between folks is I think what I hope to sort of alleviate a lot of pressure and anxiety that's built up over the past 18 months.
Okay. And I think that definitely having your employees is already one thing, but then you have other people to other stakeholders to manage as well, investors and clients. So how do you manage all of this as a founder? Who do you prioritize and why? Maybe Brian want to go first.
Right. To me, I think especially now because we've been talking about the pandemic situation, I think for me my initial reaction would be I think to take care about my team members first. I think because that's the closest one to me, the one that I think I can impact directly. So that is my first priority. Only then, and I think that's even more important because now I think with 1,000 people, I think and the size of business we are in, I don't necessarily have the best position to actually directly impact or manage the clients myself. So I have to make sure that my team is actually, are in the prime position to actually help the client, right? Now, about investors, I think so far, I think in SIRCLO we are being blessed by having investors who are very supportive and kind of trust on the management, have faith in the management. So I think throughout the pandemic, it was really, a smooth experience because most of them, they say that, hey, okay, I think SIRCLO is, apart from the fact that SIRCLO is gonna get some positive impact because e-commerce is kind of get a push in growth. But apart from that, they also trusted the management actually know the priority to take care of the people, and then after that, take care of the customers. So they don't really, at least they are not bothering us with stuff, and in fact, they're actually lending their hands if we need some support. For example, I think specifically on the I think some equipments related to the COVID itself, like for example, oxygen concentrators. I think that's one area where I think through our one of our shareholders actually we get an initiative to get those supplies.
Yeah, I think to add to this, I think I love the title of this session, which is staying agile. So I think Kargo I don't think I subscribe to a hard and fast like priority list, like, oh, we're gonna have to be shareholders and then customers and then employees or employees first. I mean, I think look, these are all very important stakeholders in our company, and we have to prioritize them, at the same time, right? It's kind of like, we run a very asset-like marketplace. We don't own any of these trucks. These are not our drivers, our employees, and so like, how do we balance like the demands of the customer versus the demands of the trucking companies and the transporters? And the fact is, we have to balance both sides, right? We have to sort of be able to have clear guidance if there is disputes. And so I sort of go back to the early days of the pandemic in March 2020 when everything was drying up. Investors were pulling out, right? And like businesses were just going into emergency mode. Well, look, at that time, Kargo, we were very lucky to have raised our Series A. We had enough money, in sort of our bank, but we went into like defense. We went into, we basically cut all of our marketing budget. We, most of our executive teams, took a huge pay cut. I didn't take a salary for all of me and my co-founder didn't take salary basically for all of 2020. And it was, pure cash conservation mode. And so do we care about customers? Yes, but like, the customers that we, we're having some problems with, or the customers that we think, hey, this is probably not the best time for us to expand our business with them, we cut, right? We sort of dropped. And so, was that placing customers or investors or, our teammates above everything else? I don't know, right? Like, I think it's just, you have to be agile. And as we see sort of Indonesia bounce back, now it's now time for us to hire more people. And obviously in periods of expansion, both in terms of market size and in terms of capital, like, yeah, we have to do right by our employees. And, we're going to offer very great packages. Like, if I don't allow my engineers to work remotely, then Philip is going to go and take them. And so I think, those are decisions that we kind of have to make in periods of expansion. And so, yeah, I think there's really no hard and fast rule, but we have to just kind of stay agile.
Right.
Okay.
So even though we have a digital products, but we are largely a people-based business, right? So that means we need to balance between people's priorities, our investors, employees, and our customers. But we put at least in Bonza, we put more emphasis on taking care of our employees. And that's also the directions that we get from our investors. We got to take care of our own employees first. Only by then we can basically take care of our customers. So we have that philosophy. I'm not sure if it's the right approach, but it's definitely what's worked for us.
Okay. Cool. Actually, Tiger, I wanted to build on what you said. So you said that you had to maybe limit your expansion for last year. Was this something that was it conflicting with what the investors wanted? Or, what if there's sometimes when there's things that you want that maybe the investors do not agree with, or one investor doesn't agree with it from another one? How do you maybe handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the most part, I think we're very fortunate to have been able to choose who our investors are, who really align with with me and my co-founder and our company, what our mission is. And so I think on very strategic questions of direction of the company and what we wanted to do, I think that's like we've aligned that earlier on before even they have come on board, right? And so I think that's super important, and I think that's we're just very lucky as a company to have been able to talk to multiple investors and really be able to choose, right? I think when it comes to black swan events, and I think this is how Sequoia kind of describe things like the Great Financial Crisis and things like and COVID, especially again like Q1. I mean, I remember this so distinctly because we had raised our Series A, we had tons of interest, we expanded our round, there were people that said, please let us in, and then sort of COVID hit, and we said, okay, look, we want to bring you on board now because we want to bring as much, we want to have as much cash as possible, and literally night and day, we're like, oh, sorry, we can't, right? And so I think I think when all of the world was ending, I think investors are going to be with you, right? Like in the decision that you make. Like I don't think anybody is going to be like, hey, be aggressive, go and burn all this money during this time. And so I think that's broadly kind of aligned. We are still very lucky to have not had any really disagreements on the board and investor level. I think there are definitely questions. Hey, why are you doing this? In which case, I think we have a process of this is why, this is this is sort of what the team and sort of what the founders kind of want. And I think we have very, very supportive, investors to really, push our ambitions, kind of like, hey, that's actually not enough. Like, how about doing this? And so, I think, I think we've been just very lucky.
Okay. No, that's great. Good for all of you. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to go into fundraising, especially when we have a few investors in the audience. We have seen rounds getting larger and larger today. Is there something as raising too much capital? How do you strike a balance between, wanting to get the money that while you can, but also still raising just enough to meet expectations? Brian, since you just raised a round, you can talk about it.
Yeah, right. I think at the end of the day, it's always call me old-fashioned, but I think at the end of the day, I think it really goes back to whether you have the plan, right? I mean, why do we raise money? I mean, the best answer is supposed to be that you have some plans, and that plan will only be perfect if there's money enough for that plan, right? So I think that's the kind of framework that we always use in SIRCLO. I think whenever we raise fund, and by the way, we didn't raise, kind of mega round. We always kind of, raise actually quite a reasonable size amount of round. Even though in some rounds actually we do get more interest than what we needed. For example, like the last 36 million itself, actually we initially didn't raise that much. We raised slightly smaller. We actually get more interest so that we expand the round slightly more. But then at one point we actually said, okay, 36 is our max, because that's the stretch of the plan that we have at that point in time, right? Now, of course, we might actually expand the plan, but that requires time, right? That requires more thinking. And so I think rather than just kind of, okay, just raise whatever money we can right now. But I think if you don't have a plan, I don't really think that's actually the best way to do it. And so for us, we just say that, okay, we're gonna want to close the round, the 6 million. Now, upon that round, of course, we go back to our drawing board, think about, if money is not exactly the problem, what more can we do? Then only then we can perhaps do next round. And I think that's kind of the guideline I would say that we've been using and we will keep be using.
Were you tempted to take more since there was the opportunity to?
Well, I would say that okay. First of all, of course, there's no free money, right? Because when you raise more money, that means you dilute more, right? It doesn't necessarily. I mean, of course, if you can be of higher valuation, that's generally better. However, typically, I mean, if it's just more money, it will mean that you actually dilute more. And when you dilute more, you might want to be a bit cautious about the dynamics in your cap table as well, right? So, and I think for us so far, we kind of always take that into consideration as well. What kind of dynamics in the cap table that we want to manage, so that, that's the kind of trade-off that we have against the amount of money that we can raise at that point of time.
Okay. I just want to go to Philip. Because you're raising, I mean, you guys just did a $2 million round.
Yeah.
Basically, you guys have any future fundraising plans? And have you seen maybe investors thinking towards big data and deep tech changing in Southeast Asia? Because it doesn't seem like something that many people might understand.
Well, we do have future fundraising plans, and we are talking to a couple investors. But yeah, back to your questions about raising too much money. Basically, I don't think the issue is with raising too much money. The issue is with if you are raising responsibly or not, right? By responsibly, I mean if you don't have a plan, you just want to get like what Brian said, there is no free money. If you just get the money while you can, and while you have a good plan how to use it for your expansion, for your future products, for hirings, and etc., you're just asking for more troubles, in my opinion. What we are looking for in Bonza, at least, we are looking for strategic investors. I mean, money is not that big of an issue for us at the moment because we are running a very different business compared to different startups. but we are looking for more strategic investors who can help us execute better in what we are doing. So it's a choice, right? Do we have an option of raising more money? Definitely yes. It's what the market, it's how the market behaves right now. Do we want to execute that? Well, it depends on the future plans and our commitments on how we use that money for good, basically. So it's a very tough question, but I don't think, especially for most entrepreneurs, there are issues of raising too much money. They have their own predictions and have own plans, right? Let's say there's an entrepreneur A who really wants to raise a large war chest because he viewed that pandemic will basically disrupt a lot of their businesses. Yes, you need to raise a lot of war chest for it, right? There is nothing wrong about it. But if there's an entrepreneur who really want to be picky about their investors and raising more carefully while keeping the dilution very, very small, there's also nothing wrong about it. It's just people's preference, I would say. So I see no issue with it. I mean, yes, in the media, it looks like when you raise more money, it's definitely much better. But yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, on that note, like, we've seen Tiger Global, we've seen a lot of US investors, big players like A16Z as well, coming in. Do you guys think that changes the game for you guys? Are you guys, I don't know, are they better investors, or is it good to stick with local ones? How does it maybe change your fundraising plans?
For me, at least, we are looking for global investors. We do have global investors in our cap table, and we get so much. The most important thing is whether you get so much value, strategic value from investors, whether you can provide value for investors. I think it needs to go both ways, right? And as long as the dynamics is still maintained, I think it's the right way to go.
Just to add a bit on that, I think not necessarily a theory, but I think at least from my experience throughout our fundraising since our beginning, there's always an overarching theme during the fundraising. For example, during my early days, my seed funding or the kind of pre-series A rounds, for me, I was a first-time entrepreneur, right? So the main thing that I was looking for during that time, apart from the money itself, is to get into some communities of founders, right? So that I can actually learn, from peers. And that's how we end up, take money from East Ventures, because they are one of the, biggest community, if not investors, in the region, right? But as we grow, that might change, right? The requirement, the psychology, and the needs might be different, right? For example, during our Series B, we actually raised a lot from the internal, local conglomerates as well as businesses, because we see strategic angles with them, right? So that we can actually, I think, for example, especially during that time, we were expanding our offerings not only to the SMEs. We are not only helping the SMEs, but we start to help the multinational companies or the big enterprises, right? And working with those established businesses and conglomerates actually do help to a certain extent, right? So I think that's kind of the theme during that period of time. Now, moving forward, it might be different again. For example, just now when you mentioned about US money, right? Typically, US money is a bit more mature because they have seen the full or even a couple of cycles of kind of companies, right? So I think if one is considering themselves as at the late stage of their business, or they need that global connection because they are intending to do global, or they want to perhaps go public in foreign countries, then I think that might be a good idea to actually take money from US investors. Just saying, but that's the kind of experience on how we actually raise money and strategize which investor we prioritize during which time.
Okay.
Rachel, on your question of these global investors coming into that are taking interest in this region and in Indonesia, what I would say is it's about damn time. I remember back in 2012 when Lazada was just first starting out, we were, no one was paying attention to this region. No one even knew where, some of the countries that we're mentioning and operating in were on the map. And so I think this is, some of the global funds that you talked about, they're finally looking here. I think it's like, it's about damn time. And it's like, where were they like 10 years ago? And so I would even say that, their return would have been much, much better had they looked earlier, right? And I think it's really natural, for the ambitions of the founders today and the companies today, to catch the attentions of these global investors, because it also kind of speaks to just broaderly, like Southeast Asia's really like place in the world, which I think all of us here just think that it's just a question of when and not if. And so look, I think it's great for the ecosystem. I think more capital means that founders like us can be more ambitious, which that we're going to be able to get the resources to build and hopefully improve the lives of not just our employees, but all of our stakeholders that are part of our ecosystem. I think it's going to be great for our early stage investors, which means that they're going to be able to get an exit and they're going to be able to invest in more entrepreneurs. It's great for it's great for the ecosystem. And so to the extent that I think we really welcome that. And I think as our companies mature and as the first generations of these big Grab and Gojek and Tokopedia and Galapagos public, I think we're really gonna be able to attract a lot of entrepreneurs to come back, because there's so much more problems that needs to be solved. And this is really, I think, the golden age for this region of the world. It's about damn time.
Well, I mean that's great, but do you think I think some people might complain. I guess not really complain, but they might note that these global investors, they come in, they don't really take board seats, and they just kind of give money, and they might not give a lot of strategic maybe advice, and they just provide the valuations go up a lot more. Does this does this affect you guys, or do you guys have any response to that?
Nothing more than what I think I mentioned earlier. I think it really depends on what you might call advice or strategic angle. I think if you're very early in your journey and you want to really know what's work on the ground, definitely foreign people who never even have walk on the streets of Jakarta might not be a help for you, right? But I think at some other points, they might actually give a better age for you if you are at the right stage. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I just want to leave the rest of the time for questions from the audience. I think the first one, which anyone can answer, was were there any burning questions from your investors that happened during COVID that kind of weighed on your business or the way you ran it?
What's your burn rate? How much cash do you have left in the bank? It's usually some of the most important questions. With or without pandemic, you should know.
Correct.
So what did you guys say? What did you say back to them? How did you manage their expectations? Their worries, I guess.
Yeah, I think we took a real hard look at what's sort of the profitability, what's the unit economics, and we really try to cut as much sort of waste out of the system as possible, and grow on a stronger foundation, which I think Kargo has been able to do post 2020.
Yeah. I think for me, especially in e-commerce enabled market like SIRCLO, I think second question to how much money we have in the bank, which is of course always an important question, is that during pandemic, e-commerce should really be a help, right, for the economy. So I think one of the more important question as well throughout the last 1.5 year from our shareholder is what more can we do actually? like so that we can help more business. We can help both big businesses as well as the small businesses, even individuals, who are losing their job. They might want to actually try to figure out something on their own. They want to resell products. They want to perhaps create new products. How can we actually extend our help to them? Because I think one important note as well, if we link back again to the mental health questions, is that I think having that great attitude within ourselves, the fact that e-commerce has actually gained better traction during the pandemic, and SIRCLO has been a beneficiary of itself, then the next question should be that how can we actually help, right? And one example actually earlier this year was that we actually come up with some free tools, for example, so that micro business can actually have a jump start with their business, so that they don't really have to worry, at least to pay for the tools and websites and stuff. So I think that's the kind of result of our gratitude during the situation. And I think the right questions to ask each and every of us, if our company is a beneficiary during the pandemic.
I received a question from my investors, basically on the same note, like how can you help? But maybe we are not in e-commerce space, so more on the data and analytics space, and that's how our investors and us working together, talking with governments on managing and help to manage the situation for COVID-19. We help governments to distribute oxygen concentrators, help governments in tracking the severity and indexes of all COVID in all provinces and cities, basically. So yeah, just trying to be helpful.
Okay. And just the last question. I think for Brian, so Tiger, how was supply chain actually stretched during the rising e-commerce demand during the pandemic? Could you give us kind of a sense of what Kargo saw? And I guess, Brian, since you work with commerce players, you can definitely, I think, give some insights into this as well, into the supply chain disruptions.
I'll first, I think we may have a little bit more data on the macro, right? So I think it really depends on the time period in question. When we first started, noticing things happen in early 2020, all of our import and export, really started to go down because ports were closed, global trade was really at a standstill. So we saw that a lot of our trailers or trucks were just not moving. And then we saw that as COVID affected some of our manufacturing capacities, they had to shut down. There was really a lot of it really disturbed and it really disrupted sort of inventory planning, because we're trying to plan for Lebaran, which normally everybody goes back home and is able to share meals with their family members, but there was a big road closure. Nobody could go home for now 2 Lebarans, and so there was just a lot of disruption there, and so we generally saw all of our trucks were less busy, super oversupply. We added more trucks, I think, in that first 1 or 2 quarters in 2020 than we did all of 2019 and 2018. And then I think what really picked up for us towards the end of 2020 and beginning of 2020 was really sort of the growth of e-commerce and a lot of direct to consumers, whether that's fresh delivery, FMCG directly to the warungs and directly sort of to consumers. And so we started really shifting sort of our capacity to helping platforms and 3PLs deliver e-commerce, and the biggest driver of growth, I think, in terms of logistics over the past year has been sort of this shift in consumer behavior COVID. So we really started opening up now. A lot of our smaller trucks within each city, going from fulfillment centers I don't think we're doing business yet, Brian, but I hope we can connect. But from fulfillment centers like SIRCLO to smaller sort of stations and smaller sort of delivery stations, and then they get transferred to 2 wheels. And so we'll put packages and sort of goods in the back of our truck. We'll deliver it to a place with a parking lot, and we'll then transfer it to other motorcycle riders and other 3PLs to take it directly to consumers. So, that's been a super exciting part of our business, really starting point. So.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have to wrap up because we have the closing note from Jody, our editor-in-chief. But yeah, if anyone wants to connect with the three founders here, I'm sure they are more than happy to connect and speak to you guys. And so yeah, we hope that you guys have enjoyed, our audience have enjoyed this session, and do check out our closing note by Jody. Thanks guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.